You point to the sky and say blue. Someone else nods. You both agree. It's blue. But what if it's not? What if the color you see isn't the color they see? But you'll never know because you both call it the same thing. Let's talk about perceptual isolation, the terrifying idea that your experience of the world is completely private, unshareable, untestable. You've been told that color is objective, that there's a correct way to see red, a universal green, a gold everyone agrees on. But that's not true. Color is not a property of the world. It's a reaction, a neurological event, a hallucination your brain has decided to believe. Let's start there. Color doesn't exist outside your skull. There's no such thing as red light. There are only electromagnetic waves, different lengths, different energies. Your eyes pick up the signal. Your brain interprets it. And that is where color is born. But here's the catch. No one sees the same hallucination. Let's talk about color inversion. Imagine if your red was my green. Imagine if your yellow looked purple to me, but we both learned the same words. Red, yellow, green. So we think we agree, but we don't, and we'll never find out because there's no way to crawl inside someone else's brain and see what they see. Let's talk about color blindness. We use it as a benchmark. We say, that person sees less color, as if there's a correct version, a majority version. But if one person sees 3 colors, another sees 1, and another sees 100, who's wrong? Maybe none of them. Maybe reality was never designed to be perceived consistently. Maybe the idea of normal color vision is just consensus, not truth. Let's talk about language and color. Did you know some cultures don't have separate words for blue and green? In Russian, there are 2 distinct blues, light blue and dark blue, totally different colors. In Himba, a language spoken in Namibia, the word for green also includes what we'd call blue. And when shown a color wheel, they group things differently than we do. They literally see color differently because their language shaped their perception. So, what shapes yours? Let's talk about the tyranny of labels. You learn that grass is green, that blood is red, that the sky is blue. But what if that's not what you actually saw? And you've just trained your brain to override it so you'd fit in? What if, as a child, you saw the world in strange tones, subtle gradients, colors without names, but you were told to stop? Don't be weird. That's not pink, it's orange. No, that's definitely purple. So you learn to betray your senses, to conform your perception, to match the tribe. Let's talk about synesthesia. Some people taste colors. Others see sounds. Some feel textures when they hear music. We call it a condition. But what if it's not a malfunction? What if it's just another lens, another way the brain scrambles sensory input into something personal? And if that's possible, then how can you ever be sure that your normal isn't just another form of synesthetic distortion? Let's talk about your favorite color. You say it's blue or green or black. But what does that mean? What are you actually drawn to? The feeling the color gives you? Or the meaning you've attached to it? You think it's a preference, but it might be a fingerprint, a trace of how your brain uniquely interprets the spectrum of light. Let's pause here. You think you see what others see, but you don't. You assume they see the same sky, the same flowers, the same fire, but no one lives in your eyes. No one dreams in your palette. No one else knows what blue really means when you say it. And that's the lonely horror of perception. You can't ever know if the world you see is the same one everyone else is living in. You think color is about sight, but what if it's about feeling? What if the color of the world shifts with your mood? What if your brain doesn't just see red, it creates it? based on fear, rage, grief, love. Let's talk about emotional filtering, how your state of mind colors your entire visual reality. Have you ever noticed and how the world looks different? When you're depressed, it's not poetic, it's not metaphor, it's literal. The saturation fades, the contrast dulls. Colors that once felt vibrant feel sick, gray, empty. Let's talk about the neurology of sadness. When you're in a depressive state, your brain reduces dopamine and serotonin. These aren't just happiness chemicals. They affect sensory processing, including color perception. You're not imagining it. The world actually looks dimmer when your nervous system is collapsing. Let's talk about grief and hue distortion. People in mourning often report strange changes. The world feels too bright, or not bright enough. Red feels aggressive. Blue feels hollow. Yellow feels like a lie. Why? Because emotions don't just live in the heart, they live in the eyes. Your brain doesn't passively receive color. It interprets it. And emotion is part of that interpretation. Let's talk about trauma-colored memory. When something terrifying happens, your brain records it in high detail. But sometimes, that detail becomes warped. A room becomes tinted. A hallway seems colder. The light from that day takes on a surreal greenish hue, and you can't forget it. Even years later, you walk into a similar room, and that same hue hits you. And suddenly, you're not just seeing color. You're reliving an event. That's not memory. That's emotional color tagging. Your brain painted the scene with a warning label. Let's talk about PTSD and chromatic triggers. Some survivors can't stand certain shades. A particular blue reminds them of a hospital. A dirty yellow reminds them of abuse. A gray-white flicker triggers panic because it mirrors the light of a trauma that never left. You think they're overreacting, but their eyes aren't seeing color. They're seeing danger. Let's talk about synesthetic trauma. In some people, emotions and colors blur. Fear isn't just a feeling. It's a smear of rusted orange in the corner of their vision. Shame is a thick green that hangs behind the eyelids. Despair is vile heavy, dense, magnetic. These aren't delusions. They're mappings, emotional overlays, neuropsychological projections. And they reveal something terrifying. Your world doesn't have color. Your mind gives it color. Let's talk about emotional lighting. Ever been in love? Really in love? Everything glows. You remember the warmth of color, the deepness of reds, the clarity of green leaves in morning light. You weren't hallucinating. Your brain was flooded with chemicals that enhanced visual sensitivity. You were high on serotonin, high on connection, high on the illusion that the world is good. And it looked beautiful because your brain made it beautiful. Let's talk about withdrawal. When the emotion crashes, when the love ends, the colors bleed out, not just metaphorically. Your vision dulls. You walk into the same places, but they're colder, grayer, flatter. And it's not the world that changed. It's you. Let's talk about emotional color blindness. Some people, especially those with blunted affect from depression or trauma, report seeing the world as permanently desaturated. No color feels true. Everything is washed out, muted. They don't just lose joy. They lose the sensation of color's meaning. And it's terrifying because color is how we know we're here. It's how we feel alive. Let's talk about how emotion and vision collapse. In psychological collapse, you don't just feel less. You see less. Literally. Your pupils constrict. Your focus narrows. Your visual cortex dims. The brain doesn't want more data. It wants to survive. So it shrinks the world, shrinks its brightness, shrinks you. Let's pause here. You thought color was a constant, that everyone saw the same red apple, the same orange sunset, the same blue ocean. But the truth is darker. You don't just see with your eyes, you see with your emotional history. Your traumas tint the sky. Your heartbreak dulls the grass. Your joy floods the air with gold. And no one else can see what you see because no one else feels what you feel. Color is not a fact. It's a wound, a memory, a mood, a mirror. There's a prison you didn't know you lived in. It has no bars, no locks, no guards, only a single rule. You can never leave your own mind. You can walk through cities, touch trees, hold another person's hand, but you will never know what they see. You look at a sunset and feel awe. They look at it too and feel nothing. You say, "Isn't it beautiful?" They nod politely. But what if what you saw was brilliant orange and soft lavender, and what they saw was dull, washed out pink and gray? You'll never know. Let's talk about the qualia problem, the unsolvable mystery of subjective experience. A color is not a number, not a code, not a fact. It's a feeling inside perception, an interior event, and those cannot be shared. Not fully, not ever. You can describe it, compare it, match it to a word, but no matter how precisely you say crimson, you have no way of proving that your crimson is the same as mine. Let's talk about the illusion of agreement. We built a world on consensus, color swatches, design standards, stoplights, flags. Red means stop. Green means go. But that agreement is only surface deep. It's based on labels, not experience. We don't share vision. We share vocabulary. And vocabulary is a disguise that hides the chaos underneath. Let's talk about the brain as a filter, not a mirror. You think your eyes are cameras, but they're not. They don't record. They interpret. Your visual cortex takes incomplete data and builds an internal model of the external world. But that model isn't objective. It's built on bias, memory, emotion, expectation, and yes, even trauma. So the blue you see is not the same blue someone else sees. It's not even the same blue you saw yesterday. It shifts, adapts, breaks, and the more unstable your internal state becomes, the more distorted the external world appears. Let's talk about hallucinated color. Have you ever seen something that wasn't there? A flash, a shimmer, a wrong hue in the corner of your eye? That wasn't madness. It was your brain predicting reality, and sometimes getting it wrong. We call it a glitch, but really, it's a window, a glimpse of how fragile your version of reality truly is. Let's talk about dreams. In dreams, you see colors, sometimes vivid, sometimes surreal, but your eyes are closed. There's no light, no external input. So where do the colors come from? From you, from within. The same system that interprets reality can fabricate it, and that system never shuts off. Even awake, you're dreaming, a controlled hallucination we call perception. Let's talk about the loneliness of internal vision. You think communication is connection, but what if it's just approximation? You say purple, they nod, you smile, feeling understood, but what you meant will never be known because your eyes are yours alone. No one else has access to the pigments of your mind. No one else sees the shadows behind your hues. You are trapped inside a canvas, painted by a brain that doesn't know how to tell the truth, only how to survive. Let's talk about the violence of certainty. When a child points at a color and names it wrong, we correct them firmly, sharply. We say, "No, that's orange. No, that's not green." But what if they were right? For their eyes? What if we're not teaching accuracy, but obedience to the dominant spectrum? We erase personal perception to preserve social agreement. and we call that education. Let's talk about the prison of shared delusion. Color is not universal. It's collective illusion. A system we agree on so we can build traffic signs and websites and clothes we're told go well together. But underneath that illusion are billions of private worlds, each lit differently, each saturated with meaning no one else will ever feel. You walk through the same street as others, but the colors you see are yours alone. Let's talk about acceptance. You will never see the world exactly like anyone else. You will never prove what your red feels like. You will never share the exact glow of a memory-colored sky. But maybe that's not a flaw. Maybe that's what makes you real, unique, whole. You carry a universe inside your eyes, untranslatable, unrepeatable. You live in a spectrum no one else will walk through. And that's not loneliness. That's identity. Let's close here. You thought color was simple. You thought it was fact. You thought the world looked the same to everyone. But now you know. You are living in a dream of pigments, a hallucination shaped by memory, mood, biology, and pain. You see what you see, not because the world is that color, but because you are. You are the projector, the interpreter, the painter, and even if no one else sees what you see, that doesn't make it less real. It makes it yours.